Hello, this is Samuel Guy in Hawaii, and this is a video about maximizing our hunt score. Fair warning, there's a lot to talk about. The hunt is a Borderlands community tradition, the first and foremost a charity event to raise money for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. The latest hunt is scheduled for 13 to 22 September. The community puts on a scavenger hunt wherein players try to obtain a copy of as many legendary and unique items as possible in a set amount of time. Now, previous hunts I talked about a specific strategy I used for maximizing one's score. This time I'm taking a broader approach. We'll still discuss strategies briefly at the end of the video, but we focus more on specific rules and tips that can get us a high score if properly applied to any broad hunt strategy. So, getting a high hunt score is simple in concept but complicated in execution. The hunt doesn't ask us to do anything playing the game most of us haven't already done before. It just asks us to do it all in a limited amount of time. This means we need to be efficient. We need to get through stories and farm for items as quickly and efficiently as possible. And hunt efficiency comes down to three things: how well we know our Vault Hunter, how well we know about and take advantage of our knowledge of the game, and how long we stream. Okay, working backwards, stream time. If you're serious about posting a high score and perhaps getting every item, and you're not a super speedrunner, you will have to put in a fair amount of time each day during the hunt. I normally average 8 to 10 hours a day, 8 hours total. Although I've been able to hit the 941 points in those tests well before hitting 80 hours. Okay, knowing about and taking advantage of various aspects of the game is what we'll be focusing on. That's the whole point of this video, because I can't really help you with knowing your Vault Hunter. Okay, we all start out with a brand new level 1 Vault Hunter, play through the base game and DLC stories and various side missions to unlock access to all the farmable content, and then we need to farm each source for their specific drops. Per the rules though, we can only use specific gear obtained during the hunt. No banked items, no rewards that show up in our mail whenever we start a new character, no guardian rank or golden key gear or vault cash rewards, things that a lot of people normally use in the course of a regular playthrough and while putting together an endgame build. Okay, read the rules. I'm pretty good with Moze and Amara, but I'm by no means an authority. Okay, and I know a lot less about Zane and Flak. Whichever Vault Hunter we choose, we need to make our way through all that content using whatever we find and farm along the way. And we eventually need to put together a level 72 endgame build to tackle the hardest content, takedowns, raid boss, circles of slaughter, proving grounds, using that same type of gear. So, knowing your Vault Hunter is your responsibility. Knowing its strengths and weaknesses and being flexible enough to use found gear as you go and put together an endgame build with limited, less than perfect gear. All I can say is, the hunt is probably not the best time to play around with a Vault Hunter you don't know all that well. Okay, so we're going to talk about a whole bunch of things any Vault Hunter can do in the game to be faster and more efficient, some of which you may already know, some of which you may not. Okay, we don't have to do them all, and we don't have to do them perfectly. A lot of these suggestions are not cut and dried. We have to make choices. But the more of these we incorporate into our hunt, the higher our score is likely to be, and or the faster we will collect everything. Okay, so there are several aspects or facets of the game, things we do or experience playing the game. There's combat, which is defeating enemies who often drop stuff. There's travel, which is going from point A to point B. There's watching cutscenes and listening to dialogue, which deliver information. And there's interactions. This includes looting containers, but we're mainly talking about checkpoints where the player must do something in order to move a story or mission further along. These are usually signified by something with a checkbox in the upper right corner of the screen. Click on this door, piece of machinery, pick up this item, talk to this person, kill these enemies, clear this map, go to this area. Okay. Everything we're about to go over can speed up one or more of these facets. Here is the broad list of things we're going to talk about. So, farming and fighting efficiently means we only fight something if we can do so quickly and efficiently. That's combat in general, not just farming hunt items. If we find ourselves underleveled and or struggling to defeat specific enemies, and or get through specific content, we don't keep doing whatever we are doing. That wastes time. We go somewhere else, side missions or rare spawns, and farm those sources, level up, get better gear, more skills, and then go back to the previous content when we know we can get through it quickly and easily. We don't struggle. Okay, killing a boss, scanning its drops, save, quitting, and reloading in 30 seconds and repeating is better than taking 2 to 3 minutes to do it and dying half the time. Okay, be efficient. Now, not struggling is one side of the equation, but what about the other? How efficient is efficient enough? How quickly should we be able to kill a particular boss? How much more powerful than the content should we be? Well, it depends, but it's not as much as you might think. Shorter farming time is always better than longer. But as long as it doesn't take several minutes to kill something, long duration farms like takedowns and proving grounds notwithstanding, it's not critical. We can still get through all the content and pick up every item in the allotted time. Okay, I've gotten close twice before and it did not fall short because specific farming runs took too long. We don't need to be speedrunners, okay? Now, a lot depends on how you feel about how long it takes to farm something and the particular farm in question, okay? Agonizer 9000, for instance, has an armor bar and a one-off purple iridium core bar. If we don't take down that armor bar fast enough, we have to wait through a sponsor break before resuming. Now, if we are constantly running up against that sponsor break, I'd say we're underpowered. If taking that bar down without interruption is doable, it's then up to you to decide how fast is fast enough, okay? Also in normal mode, we can reach a point where our power advantage over a particular enemy is so great that getting any more powerful before farming them is not really worth it, okay? In normal mode, story and side mission content and the maps associated with them are level locked within a specific range. And it is quite easy and desirable to over-level this content by doing some of the side missions, dipping to the DLCs, and farming named enemies. When we can over-level the content, being 5 levels above the content is technically better than being 3 levels over it. But if we can one-shot something in both cases, doesn't matter. If it takes 2 seconds less at 5 levels above versus 3 levels above, is it worth waiting those extra levels to farm something? Okay, you get to decide how more powerful is powerful enough, how long it takes to farm something is fast enough, okay? The other thing to understand, though, is that the faster a farm, the more it counteracts the effects of bad RNG, okay? Bad luck will happen to us at some point in the hunt. It may take 50 or 100 runs to get something that should statistically normally drop in, say, 15 to 25. Point is, if it takes 2 minutes to farm something, save, quit, reload, and repeat, 50 of those runs takes 100 minutes. That's over an hour and a half. If the farm takes only 30 seconds, that's 25 minutes. Okay, my advice, if coming back later and more powerful saves at least 5 to 10 seconds and cuts farming time in half or more, then it's probably worth coming back later. Less than that, maybe not, but that's up to you. Okay. One important milestone in the playthrough will be turning on Mayhem mode, which we can do once we complete the main game story. Be aware per the hunt rules, once we turn on Mayhem, we cannot turn it off, although we can move up and down levels at will. Okay, this is important because once we turn on Mayhem mode, everything scales to our level. We can no longer take on any content over level. Okay, so the general strategy at that point is pretty much farm M10 endgame gear, assemble an effective build, and then go back and farm as much as possible at M1, except for the stuff locked at M4 and M6. Okay. FYI, only 26 items are Mayhem locked, and only 19 of those at M4 or M6. It is possible to farm all that other stuff in normal mode, including both takedowns. Okay, I've actually done it. Knowing your Vault Hunter and your build, you have to decide whether doing that hard stuff, takedowns, raid bosses, proving grounds, and circles of slaughter, is easier on level in normal mode or on M1 and up with M10 gear. Be aware also that some stuff has an increasingly higher chance to drop at higher Mayhem levels. This may affect what you do and when you do it. Okay. Another quick note about combat. There are a few places in a playthrough where a vehicle can speed up not just travel but also combat. Mainly the early Droughts and Ascension Bluff maps on Pandora. Okay. At that point, with limited skills, equipment, and ammo reserves, using an Outrunner's weapons to soften up the Demoscagans and Scrack saves time, effort, and ammunition. Okay. Later on, there's Princess Tarantella in the Splinterlands and Antelope and Devil's Ragers. At that point, however, we should be much more powerful than any vehicle, and it's smarter to get out and fight on foot right away. In normal mode, vehicle weapon strength is tied to the level of content on the map, whereas named enemy levels scale with us. Okay. If we are 5 levels above the normal mode enemies on a map, our vehicle weapon strength is 5 levels below any named enemy we're trying to fight. Okay. Just remember, if not yet at level 72, to not kill them with the vehicle weapons. Instead, get out and finish them yourself. Vehicle kills, I believe, award 1/4 of the XP we get for killing them on foot. Okay. Arms race can be a good source of XP as well as hunt gear at any time, as the content always scales to our level. Once we turn on Mayhem mode, we should always do arms race at M11. It provides the most loot on Iridium, most XP if not at max level, and all gear drops are at M10, all while not being any harder than at M0. Okay. A few more notes about farming efficiently, and this is where it gets tricky. If something drops from 2 or more sources, we normally want to pick the source that takes us the least amount of time, given our Vault Hunter abilities. Sometimes, however, there are other considerations. The Backburner Launcher drops from 3 sources: Agonizer 9000, the Guardian Takedown bosses, and the Tyrant of Instinct. It's a Mayhem 6 level locked item. At first glance, we should be farming it from Agonizer 9000. Killing Agonizer once is way faster than a takedown or a proving ground run, and the backburner is but one of 7 items it drops. However, the backburner drop rate from Agonizer is 6.9%, about 1 in 15. From Anathema or Scourge and the Guardian takedown, it's 19.6%, about 1 in 5. And for the Trial of Instinct, it's 50%, although that must be a true trial run. Okay. Time-wise, which do we think will get us one faster? Okay, RNG always has a say. But there's more. Anathema, Scourge, and the Tide of Instinct also have other drops besides the backburner, okay, dedicated drops, which we will also have to farm. Exclusive drops. We may want to farm the Guardian takedown and do true Trial of Instinct runs and grab everything else that drops before doing the Agonizer 9000 runs, okay? If the backburner drops doing that, it's one less thing to farm Agonizer for, and we may be able to lower the Mayhem level at which we farm Agonizer 9000. However, Scourge and Anathema's exclusive items each have drop rates of 44% on M1 through M5, but the rate drops to 39.1% on Mayhem 6 and above. This means farming on M6 or above, in the hopes that the backburner or other items drop from them, lowers our chances of getting the other takedown specific items, the ones worth 10 points each. It may force us to spend more vice less time doing Guardian takedown runs, okay? There are other items with different drop rates depending upon Mayhem level, some of which go down above certain levels, okay? If a source drops both M4 and M6 locked items, odds are the M4 item has a reduced chance to drop on M6 and above. Fun stuff to consider, okay? Loot Lemon is our friend. Avoiding unnecessary combat complements the first rule. Although you may be wondering, this is Borderlands, a looter shooter, what does that even mean? Okay, it means in the hunt, there are 4 reasons to engage in combat, and if we are not doing one or preferably more than one of those things by fighting, we are wasting time. Those things are 1, farming hunt items or build gear. The former is the whole point of the hunt, but again, do it efficiently. 2, getting through a story or piece of content. A little objective box up in the corner says clear the area, kill all cycles, proving ground maps and circle slaughter rounds requires to clear entire areas. 3, to earn good XP and level up prior to reaching max level 72. We want to steadily progress, both in order to overlevel story content in normal mode, to get through and perhaps farm that content more quickly, and to eventually access all 70 skill points to put together an effective endgame build. Once we get 2 and especially 3 levels above the enemies, their combat XP is really not worth it. Okay, and 4, when fighting is faster than not fighting. Okay, all this means is if it's in fact faster to go through a bunch of enemies than around them, then fight through them. Okay, although there are travel options that allow us to go through mobs without fighting, which we'll get to shortly. Okay, so there are several things that determine how fast we go from point A to point B. Okay, the locations of fast travel, new U, and catch a ride stations, use of vehicles, skills, gear, and 1 Mayhem modifier. Now the distance we have to travel in any given situation is determined by the locations of the first 3 things. The stations I just mentioned, especially if we want to farm something. But there are 2 things we need to understand about these stations. There's the distance between the nearest fast travel and the save point closest to a boss, okay? And then there's the distance between that nearest save point and the boss itself, okay? Sometimes the 2 are the same and usually very close to a boss, which is ideal. Rampager, Grave Ward, Troy, and Tyrene. We can fast travel there and then immediately jump down and start farming. But sometimes the nearest save point is right there with the boss, but the nearest fast travel is very distant, usually at the exact opposite end of the map. Okay, Mouthpiece, Captain Tron, Kaligawa Ball, every boss in DLC 2. Okay, we got to traverse a big, long, enemy-filled map to fight or farm them. Okay, and then there are enemies where both distances are lengthy. Atomic and Celestial are probably the worst offenders. Rackman is almost as bad. A number of enemies are in between, like Sky Bullies and D-Gen 3 and the Handsome Jackpot. There are others. Okay, there's also a fair amount of travel just getting through story content. In any case, how do we speed up all this travel? Okay, first off, use the closest fast travel and use a vehicle whenever possible. Now, the fastest vehicle in the game is the Cyclone, although it's also the least heavily armed and armored. There are a few places where a lack of heavy weapon matters, but for the most part, once we get a Cyclone, we should use it whenever possible. This includes at least 2 missions that spawn specializer vehicles. The Bio-Free rig right before Sanctuary is slow and hard to maneuver, as are all mission vehicles in the game. Okay, the Beast in DLC 3 is actually kind of fun. Okay, after we've collected enough fuel material, I always swap it out for a runner at the Drought's Crossroads, and then don't swap back until after I return to the dry dock. It saves a small amount of time. Okay, swapping out Vaughn's Technical for a Cyclone near the start of the Sandblast Scar run, though, saved us a lot more time. If we're skillful and careful, we can do that run in a third of the time or less than it would take with the Technical. When we don't have access to a vehicle, the fastest way to get around is a Snowdrift or Toboggan artifact. Okay, we can't equip them until we defeat Graveward, of course, but artifacts start dropping as early as Promuthia. Once they start dropping, we need to look at every single artifact until we find a Snowdrift, unless we do Arms Race. If we do Arms Race early on, which we can do at level 13 once on Sanctuary, a Toboggan early on will work even better. Okay, a Snowdrift artifact allows us to slide anywhere from, I believe, 50% all the way up to at level 72, 128% faster than normal. How much depends on level. Toboggan is a flat 100% slide speed increase plus its defensive bubble. Being able to slide that much faster allows us to travel from point A to point B about that much faster. Okay, those savings add up quickly, and as a bonus, it can also allow us to avoid unnecessary combat, which I mentioned before. As a big rule, we can often slide right past enemies with either of these. Okay, I cannot overstress the importance of getting and using one of these as soon as possible. They are arguably the best and easiest universal time savers in the hunt. Okay. Snowdrift, by the way, is not a legendary artifact, just a legendary suffix, so we can't farm it, which is why we need to be on the lookout for one of any rarity. Additionally, the Vanquisher SMG, when held, increases slide speed by 20%. Now, I've yet to test this out on a hunt run, but 20% is 20%, and it can drop pretty early from the Power Troopers on the Atlas HQ map. Okay. There are also offensive and defensive Vault Hunter skills that can improve movement, as well as the easy Mayhem modifier Speed Demon. But most of these are dependent on being in combat. Okay, Flax Fast and Furious is probably the best exception. It increases movement speed, but only by 10% when maxed out, and above 50% health. Deadeye, Stackbot, Headcase, and Overdrive class mods can increase that bonus to as high as 20%. Okay, Zane also has Super Sonic Man, 4% increase for each active action skill, but again, very situational and not necessarily ideal for general travel. This goes hand in hand with efficient travel, and it's not necessarily hard and fast through either. Okay, there are two aspects to this one. The first has more to do with getting to the farm via actual farming combat. Now, I earlier mentioned enemies in the game who spawn at the end of a sometimes very lengthy map run. We first have to traverse that long map and often fight enemies along the way, which takes time. Now, after we first defeat them in the story, we often have to go someplace else, back to Sanctuary and or talk to Lilith, in order to complete the story mission and unlock their ability to respawn for farming, which means at the very least we will have to traverse that long enemy-filled map at least twice in order to farm them. Okay, Mouthpiece, Katagawa Bar, Agonizer 9000, good examples. Okay, when these situations crop up, try not to traverse that map more than twice. Kill them, go back, finish the mission so they can respawn, and then when we actually go back that second time, be prepared to farm everything they drop and then never come back. Try to farm half their drops, get bored or frustrated, leave, and then have to come back a third time or more. Okay, now this one is not hard and fast. I said try not to go back more than once, but again, RNG is going to do what RNG is going to do, and we may have to leave and go do something else and come back later just to stay sane. Okay, just don't make a habit of it. And yes, coming back later and stronger may allow us to farm faster and even brush off or avoid underleveled enemies along the way, but we should know that before taking that long trip across the map. Okay. The second part of this rule involves loot pools, and again, it's not always hard and fast. It's sometimes complicated. Now, if an enemy drops Mayhem-locked items and non-Mayhem-locked items, we have to decide to either A, farm the non-Mayhem-locked items in normal mode and then go back to farm the Mayhem-locked items once we turn on Mayhem, or B, just wait till we turn on Mayhem to farm them all. Okay, now most of the time we should do the latter. Why? Well, let's say we farm a bunch of stuff in normal mode and then we go back to the source after turning on Mayhem to farm the Mayhem locked items. Say we farm Atomic and Celestial in normal mode and get the Pfizer, the EMP, and the Red Suit. We got the Pestilence earlier from Heckle and Hyde. Say we get the Pfizer on run 7, EMP on run 12, and Red Suit on run 22. Each has a 10% drop chance, 22 runs to get them all. It's not bad, okay. A couple hours later, we come back after turning on Mayhem 4, and after 3 runs, we get the Spiritual Driver, which is M4 locked. All good. We got lucky. Okay. Let's say, however, that RNG is being a pain, and instead of 3 runs, it takes us 12 runs to get the driver. And prior to getting the driver, the Red Suit and the Pfizer drop again. Okay. This technically means we wasted our time farming them in normal mode, It also means we wasted time running all the way back from the fast travel to the save point more than once. Okay. When a source has mayhem locked and non-mayhem locked items, most of the time, waiting until we turn on mayhem to farm them all is the most efficient way of doing things. Okay, most of the time. There are, however, potential exceptions. Okay, remember when we talked about the Backburner and Agonizer 9000? Let's take a closer look at Agonizer 9000's loot pool. Agonizer has 7 items in its drop pool. 2 of them mayhem locked, the Backburner and the EMP5 at M6. Okay, we have to be at on M6 or above for them to drop. 3 of the other 5, however, while farmable in normal mode, non-mayhem, have a decreased drop chance at higher mayhem levels. Okay, it's 10% at M0, and I assume through M3, 7.5% at M4 and M5, and 5.7%, almost half the normal mode chance, at M6 and above. Okay. Remember when we talked about enemies having both M4 and M6 items in their loot pool and how the M4 drop chance always goes down at M6 and up? Same basic idea. These 3 will statistically drop less often when we are high enough to farm the mayhem locked items. So what do we do? Well, this one is probably not too complicated. It kind of depends though on how fast we think we can farm Agonizer on normal mode versus mayhem mode. Okay. One way is to beat Agonizer in this story, go back to Sanctuary, unlock its respawn, and then don't come back until much later in the playthrough at some point where we are so over-leveled that we can not only kill Agonizer very quickly, we can also quickly snowdrift, toboggan, slide past any enemies getting there. Okay, and then we farm till we get these 3 items, leave, come back at M6 for the rest. Yes, it violates the don't repeat travel content ideal, but if the run from fast travel to boss save point is fast enough, it's probably minor. More so, however, is the idea I just mentioned, having stuff we farmed in normal mode drop yet again while we are farming at M6, which means we wasted time farming on normal. Okay. The best case scenario is we wait till we've turned on Mayhem and gotten a good, solid M10 gear build that we know can make quick work of Agonizer, even at M6. We come back, turn on M6 or M11, if we can farm them just as fast and don't like the modifiers, and then we farm until we get the Backburner and the EMP5. Okay, if any non-mayhem locked items, 5.7% drop chance, drop in the process, great. If any of those remain once we've gotten the Backburner and EMP5, we then drop down to M1, 10% chance, and farm till we get the rest. Okay, whenever a source has mayhem locked items, check Loot Lemon for situations like this. It doesn't happen that often, though, given the limited number of mayhem locked items. Okay, the next bit, it probably belongs under the farming efficiently, but since we're here, let's talk briefly about items that aren't mayhem locked but whose drop chances increase with increasing mayhem levels, specifically arms race. Okay, all arms race drops have an increased chance to drop from their specifically aligned chests and from heavyweight hardcore based on mayhem level. Higher mayhem means higher chance, hence the listed variable drop rates. Additionally, FYI, chances for items in a specific chest go up for specific vault hunters when that vault hunter opens specific chests with those items or defeats hardcore. Which item's the one in the chest that can also drop the vault hunter specific class mod. Okay, regardless of vault hunter, this is another reason to, once we've turned on mayhem mode, always do arms race on M11. It's not any harder than M0, but the rewards are great and drop more frequently. So much for not repeating content. Co-op teammates in the hunt have to be, I believe, within 2 levels of each other. Okay, no more than 2 levels below the highest level player or 2 levels above the lowest level vault hunter. Okay, so a lot of people hold off on trying to play co-op until max level 72, if they do it at all. Playing specific content co-op, however, can really speed things up and makes things much easier and more fun. Okay, this is never more true than in arms race. Yes, playing with 2 or more increases the number of enemy spawns, but that just increases the number of potential drops when we defeat them. And in co-op, any drops, regardless of who killed what, can be claimed by everyone. Also, one person dying doesn't automatically end the run. There are chances for select players to revive their fallen teammates. Okay. Most significantly of all, however, depending on team makeup, is the greatly increased chance to get all 4 class mods quickly. Each vaulter has their own class mod, unique class mod drop in arms race, and the chances of anyone dropping are heavily weighted towards the vault hunter we are playing. Okay, which conversely means it's a lot harder for a given vault hunter to collect the class mods of the other 3 classes. Okay, the base chance for a vault hunter specific class mod to do that for that vault hunter varies depending on source and mayhem level, but assuming mayhem 11, from a dedicated chest it's 15%, from heavyweight hardcore the final boss is 6.1%. Okay, for every other vault hunter, the same class mod has a 2.9% maximum drop chance from the chest and 0.9% from Harker, which is atrocious. Okay, during my second BL3 hunt, I went to the last day of the hunt needing only 3 items to complete the list. Those 3 items, unfortunately, were the other 3 arms race class mods. I was on Moe's and had the Eternal Flame. I needed the other 3. Okay, 8 hours later, after run, after run, after arms race run, 10 to 20 minutes each run, I collected 1. Okay, I fell 2 items short. Okay, so that's important. The next BO3 hunt, the most recent one, I did it with co-op with friends. It took us somewhere between 4 and 6 runs to get everything. Okay, do not attempt to get everything in arms race solo if you don't have to. Okay. On a related note, the Seer class mod drops, the boss at the end of the Ava Mysteries DLC, suffer from the same type of class mod waiting. Unlock arms race though, farming the Seer can be relatively quick with a proper build, but it should still be quicker with a different group of a group of Vault Hunters. Variable drop rates aside, any long duration content farming will usually go faster in co-op. The 2 takedowns and the raid boss for sure. It's quite possible with a full team of 4 to do 1 or 2 rounds of the Guardian takedown and get everything. Don't sleep on co-op. These are all grouped together because they all involve items that can usually be obtained without necessarily having to farm a particular source or farm at all, okay, to play smarter instead of harder and save time in the process, okay. There are a number of items to be had by completing challenges which are generally easier and quicker than farming a boss in general, okay. The Baby Maker will be mailed to us if we collect all 35 Claptrap parts. Personally, I think farming Broodmother is faster, but if you're diligent about grabbing all 35 in the course of playing through the story, you should do so. Okay. The Lyuda is awarded after killing all 10 of Zero's targets of opportunity, targets we will have to kill and farm anyway for their specific drops. Okay. Not a challenge per se, but farming around 6 or more ludograms from Dinklebot and then turning them in to Crazy Earl will more than likely get us both the Butcher and the Lucian's Call, and that beats farming them from Raging Titan and Bluefire at the end of their respective circles of slaughter. Okay. Speaking of Bluefire, both he and Red Rain at the end of Slaughter Star 3000 have a habit of tossing their 3 designated drops out of bounds, and we can't use the lost loot machine in the hunt. So the hunt organizers allow us to claim these as world drops, and odds are very good that over the course of 10 days of the hunt, all 3 items will world drop. Okay, we just need to be aware of that fact and claim them when it happens. Those 3 world drops plus Lucian's Call via ludograms, and we don't need to run Slaughter Star 3000 at all. Okay. Then there are the 4 class mods in the Hanson Jackpot DLC, which drop from Jackpot at the end of the DLC, but can also world drop anywhere in the DLC. We can and should claim them if and when they world drop. Okay. We are also allowed to claim 1 and only 1 item as a world drop without the need to farm its designated source. Okay, you should think about this carefully and have 1 or more candidate items in mind before you start the hunt, and then remember to claim it if it world drops before you are forced to farm its designated sword. Okay, my first choice is the Cold Warrior class mod, followed by either Tina's Hippity Hopper or the Shredder Fire. Okay, Cold Warrior can only be farmed from System of Slaughter, but the other 4 System of Slaughter drops can be obtained from other sources that, in my opinion, are faster and easier to farm. Get those 4 by alternate means and the Cold War as a world drop, and we can bypass System of Slaughter. Okay, Shredder Fire and Hippity Hopper both drop in Slaughter Shaft. We can't completely avoid that circle, but getting 1 of those may decrease the number of runs we end up needing to make, in that one. I happen to think all Circles of Slaughter are a lot of time expended for not enough loot, at least in the hunt, so I try to avoid them as much as possible. And then there are the 3 events. Now, as long as it isn't a hassle, we should always speak to Marisa and have an event running until we collect all their drops. Hassle means you don't like dealing with ghosts and the terror mechanic or extra Kartar enemies constantly popping up. Okay, I understand. This is because all event items, in addition to dropping from specific sources in special maps or obtainable as redemption items, can also world drop in most base game maps as long as the event is active and they are claimable as such. Okay, the Polyamorous SMG and the Wedding Invitation Sniper for Broken Hearts can be redeemed by collecting, shooting, and turning in 50 and 100 hearts, respectively. But they can also drop from Golden Loot Hearts. Okay, they've always world dropped for me well before I collected the necessary hearts. Okay, additionally, even after we obtain both items, hearts also offer additional second win chances. Something to keep in mind. Captain Hunt's 4 items, which he can drop in Heck, can also drop from Golden Loot Ghosts anywhere they appear, even if we've already collected enough Hectoplasm. Okay. Finally, all the Revenge of Cartel mini-bosses can spawn in the main game and have a chance to drop their designated items. I don't have too much to say about this last bit, okay? Cutscene skips are easy. Whenever a cutscene starts, spam that escape button or the console equivalent until the cutscene ends. Dialogue skips are a bit more tricky and are often tied up with interactions. Potentially skippable dialogue pieces are normally preceded by an interaction like talk to Let to report to the bridge or talk to Wainwright. Okay, most of the time, as soon as that box gets checked off, we can save, quit, reload, and save some time. But not always. There are a number of instances throughout the story, especially on Sanctuary, where save, quit, reloading this way will only set us back and replay the earlier dialogue. And sometimes save, quitting, and reloading just adds time. Okay. Best advice I can give is if you don't know for sure, don't try. You also might want to try watching some speedrunner videos to gain knowledge of where the most legitimate skips occur. Okay. Now that's a whole bunch of ways to get more hunt drops faster, easier. You don't have to do them all, and many can be approached in multiple ways. But the more you do, the higher your score, and assuming you know your Vault Hunter well enough, you might even get everything. Now, as for overall strategies, any strategy that follows most of these guidelines can work. I've done variations of 3 different strategies during actual and practice hunt runs, and they all work. They've all gotten me to the 941 point goal within the 10-day streaming limit, even with occasionally bad RNG. Now, the most common is what I call the speed start strategy, which prioritizes finishing the main story and getting to level 72 before farming in earnest. Okay, the only drawback is really a psychological one. If we're trying to maintain a steady pace of hunt items collected over time, we're going to initially fall behind and have to make up the difference after getting to level 72, but catching up is not difficult. There's a video that goes with a custom spreadsheet I built for the hunt that can be very helpful in following many of the suggestions in this video. It's linked below. In that video, I go over some ways to gauge our hunt progress. The second strategy is what I call the pure efficiency strategy, and it's basically the exact opposite of the speed start. It prioritizes farming any hunt items on a given map before moving on story-wise if we can do so efficiently, okay? Finishing the main story and getting to max level will happen when they happen. It's really easy to maintain or exceed a daily hunt gear farming goal, and we don't turn on mayhem until we absolutely have to. Now, eventually, the easily farmable stuff will dwindle, and we'll have to start tackling the longer stuff, meaning getting to max level and turning on mayhem. But I used this in 2 actual hunts, and I fell short only because I was either unaware of and or didn't follow some of the rules I just covered. Okay, running arms race co-op in one case, knowing my Vault Hunter in the other. Okay, the last strategy is essentially a hybrid of the first 2, which I've tested several times. We farm stuff on each map as we go through the story, so long as it doesn't in any way slow us down. We can ignore side missions if they take a lot of time to get through, but farm the stuff we can farm quickly and efficiently. Then once we finish the main story, we XP farm to 72. It becomes the speed strategy. This actually gets our point and item average up faster than the other 2. And again, though, all 3 strategies will work. And all 3 give us lots of choices when it comes to what to do and when to start and finish the DLCs, when to turn on mayhem, when and how to tackle arms race, etc. Bottom line, it doesn't really matter if we use a specific strategy or kind of make it up as we go. As long as we keep in mind the rules I pointed out, as long as we ask ourselves, are we following or not blatantly violating one or more of those rules, whenever we decide to do this or that, we should do pretty well. Okay, and that's it, and that's enough. Check out the spreadsheet video, also linked below. Like, comment, subscribe, stay safe, and thanks for watching.